Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and today I'd like to tell you all about what I think of a little game by the name of Puss. This game is essentially what happens when you cross those old browser-based maze games, you know the ones that occasionally try to freak you out with a screamer at the end, with surreal and eye-watering vaporwave aesthetics. Playing the role of a kitty responding to a plea for help from inside a television, because of course, you use your mouse to guide it from one end of a maze to another, all the while trying to deal with the trippy visuals, devious hazards, and an extremely off-kilter soundtrack. And I hate it. I didn't hate it to begin with, though. In fact, at first I was fully on board with everything that Puss was doing. You kick things off in a world consisting of 10 levels and you're given a set number of lives. Lose all your lives, it's back to the start. However, if you complete a level with accuracy and swiftness, Puss rewards you with points, which, if you fill the bar between levels, gives you more lives to play with. It's a neat system. One that, combined with a glitch effect that lets you know when you've strayed a little close to the edges, feels quite forgiving as you blunder your way through unfamiliar realms. An interesting dynamic to how this opening world works is that should you fail and have to start over, the levels themselves shuffle, sometimes even inserting a new one that you didn't encounter in the previous attempt. It makes for a challenge that keeps you on your toes, ever shifting, one moment lulling you into a laid-back, slow-paced groove before propelling you into a section demanding snappy reaction times and effective projectile dodging. Eventually, through trial, error, and occasional sheer dumb luck, you'll find yourself at the final stage of this world. It's here that you'll discover that this game actually has boss battles, and your first contestant is a demonic chihuahua called Cerberus, which has been summoned by a cult of devil-worshipping cats. It's here that the life system suddenly makes a lot more sense. It's not just a buffer that you can use in your bumbling attempts to get through a tricky level, it's a vital resource, one that you'll need to rely on as you deal with a multi-phase bullet hell style onslaught. Chances are you'll fail at that first attempt and the second, and quite possibly the third, but there is an addictively devious gameplay loop here that keeps you coming back and giving it just one more try. Maybe you can ace all those stages next time through. Maybe you won't run into that one awkward stage that just really screws you up. Maybe this will be the one that finally brings that goddamn chihuahua down. I won't lie, it was quite a rush to finally see that boss defeated. I was enjoying the heck out of my time with Puss. But then, the rest of the game happened. So, what changed? Well, on the surface level, not much. The formula remains the same, but instead of one world, you now have 5 new worlds to choose from. Each of them are immediately accessible, each of them providing a whole host of new levels for you to challenge yourself with. Where it starts getting annoying, however, is the level shuffle, which kept you on your toes during the introductory world, is now applied across all available worlds. What this means at its core is that building any sort of familiarity with these new stages and worlds is going to be much more of a long-haul endeavor. I won't deny, however, that some of the levels you'll be playing through here are actually quite ingenious in design, layering interesting hazards and gimmicks on top of that tried and tested maze game template. What other game can you say put you in danger of screwing up a run because your view was blocked by a giant dolphin, or baffled because you just couldn't comprehend how the maze itself was even supposed to function? There was one maze in particular that I flat out dreaded coming into contact with. It featured blocks that would blink between safe zones and death zones, but for the life of me, I just couldn't figure out the rhythm. The pattern, if it was there at all, was buried under this ever-present layer of sensory overload. As you can imagine, these are seldom levels that you will ace first time through. They're meant to be revisited and mastered, but the trouble is, in any given world, you never get the same deck of levels twice. I mean, sure, there'll be some mainstays that you can rely on, but there's always going to be that wildcard element, that RNG, that threatens to take a respectable run and just completely grind it into the ground. That said, Puss does try to take the edge off every now and again by introducing an ally, one that will allow you to skip a stage for the price of a few lives, but even that seems to suffer from the dreaded RNG. He'll turn up when you don't need him, forsake you when you need him most, and worst of all, casually bugger off if you dare give the stage another go in his presence. Apparently, you can gain more allies as you complete worlds, each of them offering beneficial perks, but I wouldn't really know much about that because I was too busy wallowing in my own personal purgatory, struggling to even reach a boss fight with enough lives to give me a fighting chance. Speaking of the bosses though, they're probably my favorite thing about Puss, each one offering up something new and bizarre to deal with. One will have you battling against a giant slot machine, the spins determining what you'll have to dodge. One will have you desperately trying to outrun the wrath of a giant shrimp, while another will have you attempting to dodge the bullet hell onslaught of a Renaissance masterpiece. I'd love them a whole lot more if it wasn't such a colossal pain in the ass to reach them. It's honestly a grind. I'm sure you can picture the scene. You're on your 7th attempt at a world, you feel like you've gotten a pretty good bead on what you'll have to deal with, all the quirks and what have you, and then just before you reach the boss stage, it throws in a wildcard. One that you've never seen before, and you just know all those carefully attained lives you've been saving for the big bad are about to get completely flushed down the drain. Sure, you might luck through with 2 or 3 left over, but that is seldom enough to even figure out what the boss does, let alone inflict damage. It's infuriating, it honestly is, but that addictive nature is still there. It fools you into thinking that just one more go might make things better, but truthfully, it's just as likely that it'll screw you over again and again and again, and just make you even more annoyed and annoyed and annoyed. And oh good, it decided to turn on glitch mode. No, that's fine. My eyes were bleeding anyway. Why not make them want to bore through the back of my own skull too? This is fine. 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 Puss is pretty much designed to be painful. Oh sure, it doesn't start off that way, but trust me, one way or another, Puss will make you hurt. It's a game that takes a style of gameplay that requires repetition, familiarity, and skill, and decides that tricky levels aren't enough on their own. It has to go and chuck them all into a blender. It may have seemed like a good idea on paper, but I think there's a reason why you don't see that kind of level ordering very often. I mean, could you imagine playing an early world of something like Super Meat Boy, and every now and again it forces you to play an advanced level from another world at random? That sounds like it would suck. It does suck. It sucks. Personally, I don't think Puss would have lost any of its quirkiness if it would have had a more conventional structure. It wouldn't have even had to be static. Come to think of it, what was wrong with the introductory world? That one worked just fine with its smaller pool of self-contained levels, enough variation to keep things challenging, but crucially not too many as to make it a chore to build any kind of familiarity with them. If anything though, Puss is certainly a game that really wants to test you, but for me the only thing that it ended up testing was my patience. For all its unique visuals, for all its interesting spins on getting a cat from one end of a maze to another, it ultimately winds up as an exercise in how much crap you're willing to put up with before throwing in the towel. And on that front, I can say that Puss utterly defeated me. Hopefully you found this review illuminating. In any case, feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if you'd like to see more videos like this one, be sure to click all of the requisite buttons. You know, the bell, subscribe, thumbs up, shared. I know, there's too many buttons, but trust me, it helps. If you're feeling really generous, however, you can always lend me some support over on Patreon, like all of these lovely and highly attractive folks currently scrolling up the screen right now. If you're interested in joining them, or if you'd like to follow me across social media, you'll be able to find all of the relevant links in the description down below. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.